Hey everybody, this is Perch, and yeah, a lot of people sent me this article, like a lot, and it was on ICV2, and it was a commentary by Phil Boyle. Now, Phil Boyle runs Coliseum of Comics. It's a very large southeast chain, and if you're a retailer, you go to these summits. You've met Phil Boyle, you know Phil Boyle, you know what he does, and Phil Boyle. I mean, for some context, kind of among retailers. Retailers, when they get to a certain level or a certain name, certain notoriety, if you will, they all tend to become, they like to, they like to talk. Yeah. And by the way, not throwing a stone in a glass house here. But they're very opinionated, and there's a certain amount of like, I'll save the business kind of aspect of them. You see those with all kinds of people. Phil Boyle has not fallen into line with some of the other bigger, louder, quite frankly, more annoying names in retailers. One of the things that terrifies a lot of kind of that level of people is if somebody comes in with a new idea. You saw this with Diamond. You've seen this with the infamous gentleman from San Francisco. No, not Yule. It is, that the challenging of the status quo gets aggressive, rude, and obnoxious incredibly quick among retailers. And then there's a handful of other people that fall into that too. So, this article got posted, this column. What's notable about this column is that it was not, it was somewhat obvious, I guess. I mean, the suggestions that are in here, I'm seeing a lot of people go, oh my God, yes, he's saying what I think. He's saying what everybody's been saying for the last, 5 years. Now, I'm not taking away from the fact that the information is correct. It is, but it's not a revelation, column. It's a pretty obvious column. Again, I don't say it to disparage it. I say it more to point out kind of the insanity when you see people attack it. And, the usual suspects, Jamal Engel, Eric Larson, a couple of the other retailers, our friend from San Francisco, just really going at it, and not going at it like well, I disagree with this point and here's why, but disagreeing with it. This sounds pretty Nazi-like. That's the argument. There's no refuting of points. There's just, this makes me, I don't like it, or this is all your fault, which is, kind of the direction Eric Larson went. In this column, Phil Boyle talks about kind of the heroin of variant covers and how it's bad for the business. And the response was, well, you guys asked for it. Okay, that is true. By the way, a lot of retailers got dependent on it. A lot of retailers asked for more. In fairness, it's not like the retailers marched over to Marvel and DC's door and asked for more of it. Marvel and DC kept pumping out more of it. And retailers are like, well, this is becoming a big part of my business chain. Do more. It's more like that. So not as clean cut as certainly people say. But anyway, I find that entire argument, and maybe it's, being a parent, for those of you who are parents, you got to think about your kids. And if you come home one day and you find that, one kid threw a rock through the window, and you ask your kid, like, why did this happen? And like, well, somebody dared me to. It's really their fault. It's like, oh, okay. Well, you're excused for throwing that rock. Like, this stuff is just stupid on the surface. But anyway, this article goes in and it says it's nearly 2024, and I'm more than a little concerned. Well, yeah, sales are dropping. Shops are increasingly having to get into things other than comics to survive. A lot of comic shops are dropping new comics. And if you look at the solicitations and the catalogs, none of that stuff looks healthy. It doesn't. Just volume of comics, the rapid fire creative team shuffle, the lack of any really huge names in comics. There's a lot of issues here. So as Marvel and DC, you blew it, or maybe just succeeded in your plan to kill off the American art form, which you've been able stewards of for 80 years. I think that's stretching a little bit. If there's one thing that is consistent within comics, it's the ability for these big companies to screw things up. It's baffling that something so prolific was ushered to the chopping block and executed. Strong accusation, no, just the unvarnished truth as new comic sales find new lows. Now, in fairness, Phil had made some comments 2 years ago A lot of people in 2021 and a little bit of 2022 were loudly cheering how comic books have never sold higher. It's a boom. It's amazing for our industry. And there was no factual basis behind that. None. And so there's a little bit of, I hear you, I hear him, but, what would have been nice is when there were clearly problem signs, 2 years ago, we didn't all do the comeback will be bigger than the setback. Booyah, fuck you, Twitter. Life's good. It was not. And it was clear it was not. And so pretending that the world was amazing, and then a year and a half later, it's chasing new lows. You'll forgive everybody from not having a little bit of whiplash from there. Anyway, he goes on to say, we, the retailers, cultivated the fan base the same way the underappreciated creators created precious IPs that have made parent companies obscene amounts of money. There is a lot of truth to that. The retailers dig into the customers. They are that link, B2B to C, that keeps things going. And we've seen the big companies, the publishers, largely pull back a lot of their marketing and their reach out efforts and really lean more heavily on the retailers. If a retailer today wants to say, I'm not carrying Savage Dragon, Eric Larson, there's very little, you're just done in that market. There's very little. Does Savage Dragon maintain a mailing list? Do they reach out to, have they cultivated over the years people who are loyal to the title, know where they are, message them? You've got programs like HubSpot that are, free or nearly free as trial version, that can manage mailing lists. Do you do that? The answer is no. So, you rely on the retailer who to build this bond with customers. And that, again, fact. So when it doesn't, when that struggles a little bit, it's not unfair for the retailer to say, hey, what the hell? Anyway, he talks, he goes on, where did it go off the rails? It's not a conundrum to anyone with 2 active brain cells and a lot of back issues they need to complete their runs. Again, I appreciate it. It's a little better late than never, but, this channel, among other channels, among lots of commentary, have been documenting this for years now. Years. So you're right, it's not a surprise, but then why is it that several people have consistently wanted to dismiss this? Perch didn't like, this one. Perch did a sales video at one point. This is a real story, by the way. I got, a number of people that sent me this message, and then somebody pointed out there's a private group I'm not a part of where they were loudly complaining about me. And here's the basis of it. Perch did a sales video for Miss Marvel that showed that the sales were strong, at the beginning with G. Will Wilson or average. And then it dropped. And, quote, he used right-wing talking points to talk about how the title had dropped in sales. And then a more notable YouTuber commented on that video, did a video reaction to that video, and Perch is responsible for giving these guys ammunition. He talks in a kind of intelligent, scientific way, which is not helpful for comics. It's that line that kills me. So y'all, I'll just get more dumb in how I talk. I just gonna say the comics, they're fun. I like the funny books. I can be reading, and that's not fair to actually people from Texas. But what the hell? Anyway, he says, comics first and foremost have been entertainment. Sure, collectible entertainment, which justifies a cost to entertainment ratio. But along the way, the immediate sale and false bolstering of numbers through variant covers, convoluted events, and incessant reboots left considerations of the fans behind. Character swapping, gender bending, changing sexual orientation of beloved characters fell flat with Wednesday Warriors who supported the industry for decades. The crowd of new readers the changes were meant to attract didn't translate to a one-to-one swap, leaving a declining customer base. Now, it's that line that I know Jamal Ingle and several people really, really disliked. All the usual suspects, like, well, that's proof he's talking about gender swap, so clearly he's a bigot. Except the problem is this. There's not a lot of emotion in that paragraph. If you look at, put it this way. If they'd done all these things, if they changed these characters, they revamped them for a new generation of readers, fine. And it had brought in the new audience. You did get that 1-to-1 swap, or maybe even better, a 1-to-1.5 swap, or 1-to-2 swap. Well then, who'd be complaining? I don't know, maybe the fans were left behind, certainly, but not the retailers, not the publishers, not the sales. Everybody would be just fine. Because that was the purpose. The purpose, the entire point, was to bring in that new audience. Factually, by the numbers, it has not. Now, we can debate certainly why. We can debate, where it went wrong. We can debate if it was a good idea but just not executed well. We can debate if angry, right-wing trolls stood guard in front of the comic shops and prevented people from buying, so the new audience was scared. Like, we can give lots of reasons to all of this. Welcome to. But the reality is they didn't show. The reason why they were doing this is because they wanted a different customer base. They wanted a different group of people buying the comics. And the excuse that was given, and it's given all the time, somebody mentioned it to me yesterday, it's a fallacy of, well, the customer base is aging rapidly. First of all, they're aging at the same rate everybody has aged forever. You don't age rapidly, it just ages. Second, the funny thing about people who age is they tend to accumulate more money, meaning they spend more. It is not a good business strategy to completely rely on an older generation, but I will tell you it's also not the dumbest one either. Because that older generation, as people get older, they have more disposable income, typically, and they spend it. And so if your strategy is to raise prices on comics, double down on the collectability and the variants and everything else, the people who are going to carry that weight for you are the older fans. Again, been a retailer for decades. That's a fact. Not just in comics, in every business. Now, it would be wise to attract a new fan base, for sure, because eventually, yes, people will age out. But in the last 4 years, people have portrayed comics as like there's an epidemic of death that's about to occur. That suddenly, people have aged from their mid-40s to like 90. And I know COVID did feel like 50 years, I grant you, but come on. The fact is, all the character changing, the swapping, gender bending, changing sexual orientation, changing race, all of that stuff, it's got one problem, and the problem is not bigotry. The problem is brand recognition. You can overcome that, but you have to have a strategy to do it. And I would point out, I know people are pissy about the Spider-Man 2 game, but Miles Morales has gone a long way to accomplish that. I don't, as I've said, I think the mantle of Spider-Man becomes more of a limiter as time goes on than a benefit, but he is a popular character, clearly. Has sold a video game, has movies out, people like it, has a unique style. His movies show up, look differently, and it works. It makes money. People like it. You took a character or a mantle, Spider-Man, you gave it to a new character, made the character younger, made the character, Black Latino, and it worked. But yeah, as I've said before, I think that the only holdup he's got now is the but he's not the real Spider-Man argument. You just call Miles or you change it to something else, which the world seems the normies are more than ready to do. I think that's his last step to just cement him as a super popular character. The challenge is, it worked for Miles, but it hasn't worked for dozens of other characters. That brand recognition is a problem. And to just kind of eliminate the both gender, sexual, and race aspect of it, Guy Gardner replacing Hal Jordan has the same problem. You could take a white guy that looks a certain way and replace him with a different white guy that looks a different way, and it's going to be a problem. People know what Green Lantern looks like in their mind. And what's funny is that there is also a large generation of new people where it did work, where Jon Stewart was the Green Lantern. I had a lot of people come into my store, younger people who grew up on the cartoon, where Jon Stewart was the Green Lantern that was used. It was marketed at that audience, and now they're ready to buy comics, and they're like, who's this Hal Jordan person? But this is called a brand strategy. It's not called racism. It's not called bigotry. It's called strategy. You have to have a strategy for how these things work. So anyway, he goes on, and he has a bunch of suggestions to how to fix it. And here are his suggestions. He says, $3.99 comics. I would say $2.99, but we've increased rent, labor, and insurance costs to cover, so $3.99. $4.99 and more is a non-starter with too many fans. This is a fact. Again, any retailer who is honest will tell you that. That is a fact. You certainly have fans, and incidentally, most of them are older, who will come in and buy a $10 comic because they're trying to complete their run. But this is a smaller pool. Eventually, these older people start thinking about trips to Maui, and comics are too much of a pain in the ass if they're going to be $10. So keep it simple. I agree. Fewer covers. I know this will get some pushback from every corner, but without a focus, it's all about the value of covers and not what's in between them. Max of 2 covers. While you're at it, give us hook to sell, not just another commission piece with no indication of what's inside the comic it covers. To me, this is common sense. Unfortunately, it's not as easy to quickly snap to that because the dirty reality is the comic industry has gotten addicted to this. Since the characters are iconic for a reason, the movies never got traction until they leaned into what made the characters decades-long successes. Change is good for story, and inevitably, you need to touch base with what brought them. Gender swap, sexual orientation changes, and outright changes to who's in the suit are short-term headline grabbers, and quite frankly, not as much even anymore, but without long-term sales with very few exceptions. Yeah, exception is Miles. There's not many more than that. Yeah, it's true. Now, people hear that, and definitely some of the responses went all in on this guy's, a member of the Klan. But I'm sorry, it's true. If you get into the social aspects of it, I mean, the problem is I say things like this, and there's a corner of the internet that goes, oh, but we know what he really believes. He believes there shouldn't be any women superheroes. Look, I can't fix stupid. That is stupid. When, and this is what I take shit from the CG crowd constantly, but again, the sales are the sales. The numbers prove it. When they did Jane Foster Thor, it got some short-term attention, and they built a mystery behind it, and so it worked. The sales of that line rose. Not just because of the number one, not because of the relaunch, but because there was a hook. When there's a hook, it can work. It's not that difficult. All this stuff we talk and we talk and we talk, and people have tons of opinions. They try and make it as complicated as humanly possible. But the reality is, you put a hook in the book. You've got a story. You've got a plan. You could generally pull it off. If that story resonates with people, it will work. The challenge is most people most of these stories and most of these changes don't want to bother with the hook. One of Eric Larson's responses to all this was, it was that, but I was dared to throw the rock argument. Stores decide what they order. If they don't want to play the variant cover game, they have the option of just ordering a single cover. A local store does that, and if you shop there, you'd never know the other covers exist. Yeah, except not you, but your industry created this model. You created it. And that's not true, by the way. You promote variant covers inside your comic. You put it in the credits. You talk about it online. You absolutely promote it. It's not like it's sight unseen. The second paragraph is the one that is the most pathetic. I don't know a single person in this industry who isn't putting their best effort into their work. You are free not to care for it, but it's not for lack of trying. Hey, Bozo, you know how many creators leave me regular messages talking about how people won't get back to them, how editors will just disappear and ghost them for months at a time, how they have to chase people down for their fucking, promised checks, their royalty checks, big companies, not small ones, big companies. Do you know how how often You have to go online and see one of these jackasses up there talking about what a burn it is to open up their email, or how excited they are to do a photo shoot to get a new profile pic versus, promoting the books they're paid to fucking promote. Everybody is putting their best effort. If that's true, you people are pathetic. If this is your best, you should not be working, not just in comics, anywhere. You don't even have the skills to put together a shitty Arby's sandwich. Stop with this is the best effort. This industry is a goddamn mess. Creators all over the place are struggling. And I get it for some of you assholes in the comments that want to get into, well, the creators asked for it. Yeah, nobody, when you are paid to do a job, which includes answering email, paying a royalty check on time, and getting back to somebody in a reasonable, time, that's on you. That's not a dick creator on Twitter blabbing about Israel. Please, Danny Lord, let me hear more of your opinions on Palestine. But look, stop with this is the best effort. If this is the best effort, it is absolutely time for a lot of retirement and get some people in here whose best effort is actually good enough. I understand some people are overworked. I also understand that, again, I'm sorry, I go back to the same thing. Too many of my friends are having to hunt you down to get their royalty checks. What you promise them contractually. Don't tell me about working too hard, jackass. Anyway, he goes on. There's other reasons. Tell stories without proselytizing. I mean, sure, comics did do that in the 70s. There was morals to the story. There was that kind of stuff. It did exist. The challenge was you had at least the iconic characters in the story backup. So when the sermon came in, it was packaged along with things you're interested in. I think we hear the argument of don't put your politics in my books. Oh, no, politics have always been in comics. Yeah, comics also used to have characters people cared about with stories that were engaging, that went for several issues that brought people in. You took that stuff away, but you kept the sermons intact. And yeah, people don't want to listen to the sermons without the other parts of the story. Yeah, Chris Claremont absolutely, talked about, would put together a serialized sermon. Claremont did that all the time. He also put in subplots and action and story and hooks for people to keep reading. Anyway, limited new characters, sure. Yeah, we've got too many. But we're publishing 650 plus books a month. Yeah, you need new characters to fill all those fucking pages. I'd ask for a minimum advertised price, but we're not in that world anymore. Yeah, sure. That's unrealistic. Here's a big one. Discount and shipping. Marvel and DC screwed this market, so if you want to continue to have people dumb enough to labor 60 hours a week for poverty wages to sell and advocate for your precious IPs, you need to invest in that market. You strip mined all the cash out of the direct market, and the retailers are bleeding from the bone. We need your investment or this market goes away. No, you can't sell online as a minimum production cost won't be met with online only. True. Investment means putting books in the stands at a cost to you, not the people with the highest per issue cost. Unfortunately, not a bad idea, but we've bled out so much in the industry. The publishers don't have that money to invest anymore. It's like Mark Miller had posted. You gotta get creative, use equity, increase the royalties based on performance, and then actually pay them. You got to the publishers absolutely do need to put more skin in the game. I understand there's not a lot of skin to put in that game, and they're limited as well, but they do. And one of the simplest, freest things they can do is as an editorial group, editor-in-chief, whatever it happens to be, take Tom Brevoort, running that, X line, rather than post a blog with a little X logo going, I'm excited to do X-Men comics. Okay, great. Day 2, what's your excitement? What are you bringing in? What are you looking at? What kind of creators are you talking about? What are your favorite eras? What are you hoping to recapture? Talk to us. Editors, you curate a line. I am not dismissing the role of the artist and the writer. Everybody needs to do a team effort. But editors, you're paid an FTE salary and benefits. You are not a freelancer. You literally have skin in the game. So help. It's a good article, mildly frustrating because it is what people have been saying. It's what I was been saying for years. And many people, including Phil, did the, don't listen. You're just bitter. Okay, bro, thanks. Glad you're in the bar with me now. Would have been easier to fix, 4 years ago. Harder to fix today. Way harder to fix 2 years from now. But the reality is comics will continue. They are going to keep going. It's just none of these people who, went on Facebook and did a long, hey, he sounds like a racist post. They're not going to be here. They're not going to take part in the future. Which, you hear people talk about, this is the business I've always wanted to be in. If that's true, you better get to fucking changing. Otherwise, you're going to age out. Quite frankly, a lot faster than these customers who you believe are all 99 in Crohn's. Thanks for listening.